and welcome to Redbird Migration 2020. On behalf of Sporty's Pilot Shop, my name is Eric Radtke. Happy to be joining you today to discuss the benefits and the steps process for integrating a home study course in the flight training that you're providing, you're delivering. What I do as my full-time responsibility is I lead the educational team at Sporty's, our Sporty's Academy division. So not only do we produce a lot of great original training content in a variety of platforms, but we also operate a very vibrant, lively flight school at our headquarters, pictured there at the Claremont County Airport, just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. So get the pleasure day to day to kind of see many of the topics that we're going to discuss today. Get to see them deployed and in use and in action, and a lot of great success stories as a result, and that's what we hope to share with you today. My co-presenter today, my colleague, Mr. Brett Kobe, who's a senior instructor at Sporty's Academy and vice president, leads our production development team and also serves as editor of Sporty's very popular iPad Pilot News. You've also probably seen the name as a contributing editor to Flying Magazine. Brett, welcome. We're going to have Brett on for a live demonstration of some of the great new tools that are being brought to you from Sporty's. But what we, again, wanted to discuss today, the topic at hand, is some of the virtues of integrating a professional home study curriculum in the training that you're delivering. And here are some of the whys behind it. You know, it's important as educators that we understand, number one, and also convey, of course, the whys to everything we do. And related to a home study course, I can't imagine or envision a greater tool when it comes to customer engagement and retention. And we know that that is such a key success driver to boosting those success rates across the board and helping contribute to a very healthy GA community. But the home study course is accessible all the time, anywhere. It's the ultimate in convenience, and it's the ultimate in customization. So modern consumers, I mean, they are looking for a very personable learning experience. They want to be able to dive into topics they want to know about. They want to be able to spend more time on certain topics, less time on other topics. And that's part of the virtue of a home study course, is that can be used in a variety of ways and strategies. You know, we certainly have our recommendations of how to appropriately use and integrate, which we'll share, but each user can build a total customizable experience. And they're also able to learn at their own pace. You know, we know in a busy world with more and more responsibilities, it's important when there are even just a few moments to be able to get to the learning content, stay engaged, stay active, keeping it fun, making sure that all of our students, our clients, want to be coming back to the airport each and every day. It's going to save time and money. We know that's from a scientifically. We have the data to back that up. We know that a prepared student is going to have a more pleasurable experience and a more efficient experience when it comes to their time with you and their time in the airplane. These are a lot of, we discuss and we teach a variety of complicated, in-depth subjects, and having this fantastic medium of video available to us, it's more than just drawing out concepts. It's bringing light to these concepts. It's placing students in the flight deck even when they're not at the airport, to truly visualize and understand the topic at hand and these various learning elements. And another great feature point to a home study course, and we're going to give some specific mention and detail to what Sporty's has to offer, is that these can be used with any syllabus. You know, the Sporty's platform, as an example, comes with its own training course outline or syllabus, but a home study course or quality home study course can be integrated with any syllabus. And we have some great new universal search tools available from Sporty's that really helps drive that point home, because when a specific learning element comes up in a syllabus, you can search very easily and get right to the various components that speak to that topic. In a little more detail about what we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about how to get started, kind of the 1, 2, 3 quick start guides with home study and specifically Sporty's. We're going to talk about all those platforms, including mobile platforms where you can access this great learning content. We're going to bring on Brett to give a live demonstration. And you're seeing it the first time here at Migration 2020. You're going to get a firsthand preview of the 2021 Sporty's courses, which features a brand new user interface. So you're going to be first to see that today here at Migration. We're also going to discuss some of those advanced resources which speak to your students transitioning from their home study into the actual airplane. And that includes some of those advanced features even include Redbird gift integration if you have those deployed at your flight school. And also, if you're not already, some information on how to become a Sporty's partner. So here's our quick start. 1, 2, 3, getting started with a home study course, and we're going to use Sporty's as an example. Number one, the heart and soul, the cornerstone, and again, what brings these subjects to life is the award-winning video-based training content. 6 volumes worth in the private pilot curriculum. And so when you start with the video training, it's very logical progression. Students don't have to hunt and peck or try to figure out where to go next. Once they're in the video training, it's very intuitive in how the information should flow and how it will flow. And there's great progress tracking tools as they move along. Most of the video training segments, which are organized in a very modern, kind of manageable, snackable segments of information, they do include individual assessments, which we know very important to the modern learner, the modern consumer, so they can kind of have their own gauge of how they're moving along and how they're understanding the subject material. And we also have video notes or summary notes available. Fantastic way to summarize those key learning concepts. And new for 2021 is we're even making full transcripts of the video-based training material available to individual students, because again, we know each student has their own kind of personal leanings, and some wish to have the same information in a variety of different ways. So the transcript is, helps kind of answer that question or that need for these students. Next, after video training, in terms of our 3-step quick start, transition to the dedicated test prep module. Test prep module, again, helps drive home some of these important concepts, helps link the core video-based ground training with how they'll be expected to convey that information or prove those concepts on the actual written exam. We have 2 primary modes of operation, a study mode, which we recommend everyone starts with, and then a testing mode. In the study mode session, students can choose random mix of questions or individual topics. After they build some history, the system will begin to learn strengths and weaknesses, and then students can start choosing what we term smart study sessions to help more narrowly focus in on the weaker content areas. And then we expect that our learners will then graduate to the simulated practice exams, which are set up just like the real exam. And once they've, again, built some history, identified specific subject areas that require more work, we do fully anticipate they'll, in the testing sessions, be reaching the minimum thresholds that we provide or that we require in order to confer the actual endorsement to take the FAA written exam. So again, this is fully self-contained and so customizable. And once they've completed all that video training, they've achieved their 2 minimum practice tests with at least an 80% score, they're eligible for the completion certificate, which documents their full ground school and also serves as the actual endorsement, which they can present at an FAA written testing center. Also, key benefit choosing the Sporty's pathway is that we're essentially on every platform your students wish to visit. For just one purchase price, they get access to the flagship online version of Sporty's training course, which it's worth noting is also compatible, also works well in mobile browsers. But also we have a dedicated application, Sporty's Pilot Training app, It's available for iPad, iPhone on iOS, also available for Android. Just search Sporty's Pilot Training app. We also have a dedicated Apple TV app. We know TV has made a huge comeback with all the smart TVs. So the ability to sit back, relax, and see some of these concepts HD on your big screen TV, and even the opportunity when you're watching on your television to bring in maybe some of your support network, friends, family, whatever the case may be. That's a really popular option and format for many of our users. You can find that on the Roku TV app option in the Roku channel store, of course. And we even offer Chromecast support for some of those Chromecast users out there. Again, all formats, all 5 formats, one great price. And what's more, users don't have to worry about picking up on a new format. We know we have multiple users that, while they're sitting at their laptop perhaps, or even at the office over lunch, they'll log into the online system. But when they're on the go, they may wish to reach for their mobile device or their iPad and log into the application. That's fine, that's great. You don't miss a beat. All your progress is stored and synced. That's kind of the secret sauce behind the scenes. And each time you log back in, no matter the format, you're picking up right where you left off. So again, to kind of explain how your individual clients and students may wish to move maybe between the platforms. Again, the online, most universal, available and works well across all the web browsers, even the mobile platforms. But the mobile makes for a very rich experience. And we know so many of our consumers these days are using phones to consume this content, or using iPad devices. So having a dedicated app that works so well on those devices, it does make for a richer experience. So we'd certainly recommend for anyone that's going mobile to go ahead and take the steps to download the free app, sign in using the same login credentials, and get that experience. And again, the various TV options, great for that big screen TV at home. And with that, I'm going to welcome my co-presenter on, Brett Kobe, who's going to give a live demonstration. Brett, welcome.
Thanks, Eric, and welcome to all the migration attendees today, and appreciate your time to let us show off these great new features in our Learn to Fly course. What I'm going to do is run through in the web browser here in the online course version, the Learn to Fly course for private pilot training. But where I'm starting out here is what we call our courses portal. And just want to highlight that we have 26 aviation courses available, all starting with that Learn to Fly course as a student progresses toward the private certificate. But after that point, we also have instrument rating courses providing that same level of training, video training and test prep. And then lots of specialty courses from aviation weather, transition courses into aerobatics. We partnered with Patty Wagstaff. We've also partnered with Garmin for a full avionics training series from the G1000 to the GTN, TXI, and so on. So encourage you to come check this out after today. Watching this presentation, sporties.com/demo will get you here, and you can check out each of the courses from this page. So I'm going to jump into the Learn to Fly course. And what you're seeing here is our brand new 2021 Learn to Fly course. And for those of you that have seen our online course before, you're going to recognize that this is a completely new interface designed from the ground up based on, again, over our 55 years of experience in aviation education, bringing the core training experience using the latest delivery technology. And you're also going to see that this looks a lot more and feels like the mobile apps. So if you've used our Android app or our pilot training app, the experience in the online course is going to be very similar to that to make that whole system feel very seamless as you move around each device. Now on the left-hand side is our main menu. The core here is the video training, and that's where the student is placed when they first log in, because that's where we want them to start. We want them to jump right in here with your first few hours and get familiar with the primary training topics. So video is always front and center in our training course. And we'll go through the rest of the menu options here after the video training demo. On the left side here also, we have a preview of the students' progress, so they can always see where they stand as they work towards the course completion in terms of completing all the video training, about 15 hours of video. And then as they progress towards the test prep section, we're encouraging them to, as Eric mentioned, study questions, become familiar with the material. And as they start to take practice tests, we log their top 2 scores here. and the completion requirements are to score 290%, or 2 scores of 80% or higher. Of course, 90% or higher is even better. And what happens after they complete those 3 requirements, this knowledge test endorsement function right here on the left side of the progress, that becomes active, and the student can then request their private pilot knowledge test endorsement right from the course, and that is delivered to them instantly at that point. So we see a lot of students here, and we encourage them at Sporty's Academy before they actually come train at our flight school. We really try to set them up with this course and have them run through it all before they even step foot in the door here, to watch the video training, to start preparing for the knowledge test if they have time for it, especially for those accelerated students. And we really find, like Eric mentioned, they're much more prepared, much more efficient in flight training, and makes the time with the individual instructor much more meaningful because they've seen the content, not only again the core subject matter, but also the flight training. And that's really what differentiates this course from a lot of other courses out there, is that this is a cool, comprehensive training course. We're not just a test prep provider. We want to teach the student the maneuvers, how to make landings, how to perfect slow flight, but then also real world decision making. So a lot of our focus in recent years has been real world topics on how to use the iPad in flight training in combination with the traditional pilotage and dead reckoning planning process and navigation process, understanding ADS-B, understanding technically advanced aircraft as that's becoming more common, and understanding the avionics, G1000, Garmin GTN, et cetera. So again, we kind of have that comprehensive mentality as we develop the video training content here. So let's run through the demo. These are our 6 main chapters of the video training. So we'll jump into your first few hours, which is where we like the students to start. And it's really a building blocks approach. So starting off with the basics and trying to make the concepts very easy to digest. It's very graphic and video based, so we don't have a lot of on-camera personalities. It's more, and again, in the airplane, showing the different concepts. All the screenshots you see here are from those sections to give you a feel for some of the content. And again, I encourage you to come back here at sportys.com/demo to check this out for yourself. Now, as you get into each section, let's jump into the propeller section here. So here's our video player with Rob. We do have subtitles available, so if the student wants to view subtitles, very popular for students whose first language is not English, allows them to watch the video with the subtitles. As Eric mentioned, along with the video training, there are review notes at the bottom. So this is kind of the summary of the section. After they watch it, they can review this to get the key takeaways. Each of the core segments also has a review quiz. These questions are based right on the content from the video. They provide real-time feedback as to right or wrong. And instead of actually writing out explanations, we have a button here that says play explanation here on the right-hand side of the screen. What that will do is take the user right to that segment to understand the question. So we've really found students have really liked this feature a lot. So they'll go through, watch the video, review the section notes, and then come back to this review quiz to hit those key training topics. And these are real world questions here. These are practical application of what they watch in the video training. And the feedback we get from students and instructors alike has been really great on that. And a new feature for the course here is a transcript. So if a student really wants to go even further in their review, they can read the entire transcript of that segment, which again, we hear from a lot of students that they like to follow up after video training and actually read the material. So you can see each video has that kind of layout, the video segment, review notes, etc. And the video progress here is tracked on the left-hand side of the screen. Now the video player here is integrated also with Chromecast and Apple TV. So for users that have that home TV system, even though we have dedicated apps for that, they can also stream the video from this course on their laptop right to a smart TV as well. Let's jump into test prep next. Again, this is really the other core component of the course as students really want to ace the knowledge test and prepare for it. And as you as the instructor, and I know from my experience flight instructing, the more the student can prepare on their own without me hand-holding them through each question, the better prepared they are, and the more they kind of find themselves analyzing themselves in terms of what they know and what their weaknesses are. So at the top here are 2 main options: start a new study session and take FAA practice test. So if we start a new study session, this is where a student will go in and create their own self-study session. And you can see the various options here: specific categories, random questions, the smart study session that Eric mentioned. As you start to build up sessions and grade them, the course will analyze the student's weaknesses in terms of questions they answer incorrectly often, or category weaknesses, and will allow them to build a session very quickly that allows them just to focus on weaker areas. So nice option there. Marked questions. As a student goes through and takes practice tests or study sessions, they can mark a question at any time. This allows them to come back to that kind of personalized grouping of marked questions and study just those. We found really valuable use here from the student standpoint to return to questions at a later time. But we also encourage our instructors to have the students mark questions that they don't fully understand, and maybe you as an instructor can review that with them in more detail. There's always this kind of nagging or tricky questions out there that sometimes don't always make sense to everyone. That's a great way for a student to return to you to review that later. They can look at questions always answered incorrectly, and then the question search. And we'll come back to some of these here in a minute. So let's pick specific categories. And two options here, we can either do a question mode, which allows the students to do a multiple choice type session where they pick from the three correct answers, or the three answers to pick the correct one. We also have a flashcard mode. This is a new feature for the 2021 courses that allows the students to view the question only and to help mentally think of the answer and then flip the flashcard over to reveal the answer. So they're only focusing on the question itself and the correct answer for that question. So you can see my user here, my test user has some results already. We show performance from all sessions, last 3 sessions, and most recent sessions. So if I drill down into FAA regulations, everybody's favorite topic when they're studying, what this allows you to do is see past performance and help identify weaker subject areas. So it looks like regulations under Part 32 have not always done as well. Where you can see here under regulations under Part 71, a couple questions have always done well. So initially we encourage students to kind of systematically go through each set of categories and study the questions. But again, as they build up some history here, this allows them to further streamline their study and focus on weaker areas by seeing these analysis tools here. So for now, let's pick a flight operations category and we'll go ahead and hit start. And a very nice presentation here, questions on the left. As they answer each question, they get real-time feedback as to whether the question or their answer is correct or incorrect. And they can change their answer as appropriate if they'd like to self-grade and then review the material. And each question here has a explanation and the reference right to the FAA source of the question. So our goal here is not to memorize answers, but to learn from this material, both from the explanation given and the reference here. And I can click on that and load that FAA handbook right away. And students have found that very helpful. Again, there's certain questions that just they don't get and they want to go back right to that reference source. So we make that very easy for the student to navigate. Anytime they don't have to finish a question, they can save it. So you can see here in my study history, that session is in progress. They can come back to it later at any time. For any finished session, we added a much more comprehensive review function. So I expanded this study categories here. You can see what the category was in that session. And again, they can review the session. Maybe they want to review it with you, the instructor, to get more information about some parts of it. They can also go back in and create a new session based on that session, based on a variety of criteria. Just questions answered correctly, just questions answered incorrectly, or marked questions, or do the entire session again. So tons of flexibility here for the students. Each session is treated a little bit differently in terms of how they felt about it, and lots of options. Same thing with the practice test. Here's our 90% score here. We see an analysis of the category performance and how they did in each category. And again, the same thing here to review and start a new session based on the criteria for that session. A new feature for the new course this year I want to point out, because I think it's very helpful for both the student and the instructor, is the question search function down here at the bottom. Now what I can do is type in any keyword and it's going to search our database of over 1,000 questions. So let's search for Class B as an example of airspace. It's going to show just the question related to that topic. So I can add these in and create a Class B airspace section. We'll do these on the first page here. So 10 questions, and I'll hit start. And now we have a custom study session based just on that keyword. So again, very helpful for the student to return to subject matter that they may have seen on a practice test. Also is good for you, the instructor. They may have brought up a topic and you want to go find that question. It allows you to zero right in on it and find that question from our database of test prep questions. A lot more here, but that's an overview of what the student has access to. You can see it's very powerful. This has evolved significantly over the last 5 years, really from feedback from both students and instructors. So we've really taken a lot of feedback from students as they prepared for tests And also a big benefit is of the flight school here at Sporty's is we talk to the students and instructors regularly to get their feedback and how the students are doing on knowledge tests, to try to stay aware of new questions coming up. I say we probably write 30 to 40 new questions every year as we hear the FAA and hear from students adding new content to the practice tests and the actual tests they take for the private pilot certificate. Okay, I'm going to jump back over to the left-hand menu here now and go to the flight maneuver section. So this expands on the video training with a maneuver-specific training for the students. So as they go through the syllabus and see the next day that they're going to be covering, let's say, short field landings. Let's find that. Okay, so we're going to cover short field approach and landing. Your student can come in here now and go to this specific maneuver, and they're going to see a narrated, turn my volume off there. They're going to see a narrated 3D animation of the maneuver to give them a feel and kind of prepare them for what to expect in a simulated environment. With each maneuver, there's step-by-step instructions. These follow our written maneuver guide, make it a little more interesting and engaging for them to prepare for that lesson. To accommodate that, under each maneuver also is the descriptions here of how to complete the maneuver and common errors. So a very comprehensive guide to the flight maneuver phase of flight training. And then they can also download that full flight maneuvers guide, as you see here at the bottom of the screen with this button, which will load that full PDF of that flight maneuvers guide for them to study, or maybe download to their iPad, bring in the airplane, print out, whatever it might be. Again, lots of flexibility and options there for the students for the maneuver section. On the left-hand menu, we'll hop over to the resources. We include a pre-solo exam, great for the student to help prepare prior to the solo, and you as an instructor can use this and modify it as well to help the student, or to help you give the student that requirement and have them take that before their first solo. We include our training course outline, the Sporty syllabus. As Eric mentioned, not by any means required to use this when using our course, but there are a lot of flight instructors who prefer to use our syllabus for a structured layout. That is what we use here in our Part 141 flight school, continuously updated, modernized as we go about our training process. The private pilot study guide is the complete list of all the review notes from all the video training. So again, we find that some students like to download that for a offline viewing on their iPad or another reading device. New for this year I'll bring up is our private pilot flight sim training guide. And what we've done here is created a way for students to take advantage of the Redbird simulator or the new Microsoft Flight Simulator to go through and I'll bring up a page here. See a lesson plan, and it gives them instructions on how they can go into the flight simulator and set up a scenario to practice the lesson. So it starts off with the basics, obviously, of pattern operations, takeoffs and landings, but it gives them some structure to use Flight Simulator or Redbird Simulator with some structure as they prepare for each lesson. So a nice new tool that we wrote here from scratch this year to include with Learn to Fly course. Last new feature I'll point out in the resources is My Documents. A student can now upload their own documents into their course. As you can see here, you might use it for your aircraft operating handbook, avionics reference guide, maybe some flight school procedures, but a nice way to stay organized and add to the resource collection with your own customized documents. Checkride Prep section, we expect the student to come to this section as they start to wrap up all the requirements for the private pilot certificate. And a lot of helpful tools here, again, coming from feedback from students on what they'd like to have to get ready for this next phase. So at this point, they've most likely completed the video training, probably have their knowledge test endorsement, and probably already completed their knowledge test as well. So have those requirements out of the way, but start to be thinking about getting ready for the actual check ride. So the first tool here is the Checkride Prep flashcards, and we'll go ahead and start a session. And we'll pick categories. We'll treat it like a student, and they want to focus just on one section for the oral exam. And so what we've done here is worked with a lot of designated pilot examiners, the FAA, best practices that we use in our flight school from stage checks, and have assembled about 350 questions that a student might be asked during their oral exam of their private pilot check ride. And so let's pick a category here. Let's do airworthiness requirements. We'll hit start. And what we're going to see are flashcards now with questions that the examiner would likely ask the student. And they're all presented very, very cut and dry, black and white. And then they flip the card and they get the answer. So it's a good way for them to mentally prepare and see a collection of questions that they might see on their actual check ride. Here we go. What instruments and equipment are required for day VFR? And there's our list there from 91-205, Federal Aviation Regulations. And same thing here, like with our test prep questions, down here in the bottom left under reference, they can click on the reference there and go right to the material. So our goal in this course is always to present the key information and then allow them to go on further if there is more information they're looking for from an official FAA source, document, regulation, etc. Back over to Checkride Prep, we partnered with Jason Blair, a well-known designated pilot examiner across the United States, for a nice video here and tips and tricks to pass your check ride. So great tool for the student to feel a little more comfortable and realize that it really shouldn't be this intimidating event, but more of a real world preparation guide for them to know what the check ride is going to be like and how to prepare for it. Now, along those lines, in preparation, biggest thing we hear from DPEs is students showing up with inadequate paperwork, inadequate requirements, just not the right information. And so what we've done here, this is really a two-part effort to help both the instructor and the student, is this checklist here. So as the student gets ready for the check ride, they have a way to track all the details like the date, examiner phone number. But then we have a checklist down here under qualifications where they can go and include all this key information. Nothing worse than showing up to the check ride without an FTN number, right? For example, and having that handy. And we don't want to put that on the student so much because the student has so much to get ready for already in terms of the knowledge preparation and the flight preparation. So the last thing they want to hear when they get to the exam is to not know their FTN number. That's a lot of added stress on the student. So by using this ride checklist in advance, when things are calm, have time to get everything organized, they can go through and get all this data organized into one location. And of course, here these should look familiar to everyone. All the requirements in anticipation of the check ride, and then the resources they want to bring. So they can come in here and as they get the items ready, check those off. And even take it one step further and download that checklist to print that out and bring it to the examiner. So really nice tool for the student and instructor to have everything ready for that big day. Last thing I'll point out here in the Checkride Prep is the Airmen certification standards. So we took a new approach to presenting this familiar document. The students sometimes, unfortunately, don't look at it until right before the check ride. We'd encourage them to come in here ahead of time, obviously, as they go through their training to know the requirements and know how they're going to be evaluated. But what you'll see here is a graphic for each area of operation. So let's go ahead and pick, we'll do slow flight installs. And here's the actual tasks. So you have a drop-down menu. You can select each task. So we'll look at power on stalls here. You'll see the familiar ACS references, knowledge, risk management skills. Allows the student to look through each item independently, just in a very simple manner. But then as they prepare here, we've also included every single video that corresponds to that task. So if they're getting ready for power on stalls, we can go in here and click on that video and jump right into that section. And so the student can go ahead and watch that video review segment in preparation for the check ride. So a nice way to kind of reorganize the videos as they prepare for each task using the ACS as that guide there. So kind of reorganized, streamlined, and then also incorporating that video into the ACS. Last thing I'll point out before I turn it back over to Eric, which is very important again for the group here today, is the share function. And make sure your students are aware of this, and we encourage them to use this with their instructor. But if they push this button here, they can share their progress with anyone, most likely their flight instructor or their college professor in an aviation training class. But what it'll do is when your student uses the share my progress, they'll enter your email address here. You'll receive an email, and that student's progress is now linked to you at that point. So you'll be able to come in, it'll give you instructions on how to do all this. And so I can see a couple of test students here. Brett, so we'll view Brett's progress here. We'll hit this button. And what you're going to see then is their test sessions. So you'll be able to see how they did on practice tests. You can even review those sessions with this review button. So you can see how they answered each question. You can see their performance. So you can see how they did on each category. So a great way for you to follow up as the instructor and see how your student is progressing towards both the knowledge test. You can also follow up and see how they are doing on their video training. So I know the instructor's here for the students that don't finish the course before coming to the flight school, the instructors will assign the video segments as homework essentially. And you can come in as the instructor now and verify that your students have watched the appropriate segments. So a great way for the student to integrate their training with you, the instructor, and for you to follow up that they are completing that. Eric, with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you to wrap up things. Hey, Eric, ready to take back over?
Thanks, Brett. Appreciate it. Great demonstration. So, to kind of reiterate a couple of our opening points, hopefully that live demonstration certainly illustrated how the learning experience can be customized to each individual. And certainly from an instructional standpoint, hopefully you've also, that's inspired some creative thought of how you could use the various tools. Certainly from a Sporty's perspective, we've always taken a holistic approach to the learning process. This is a ground school solution, but it's not just ground school. This is a variety of innovative, valuable pilot training resources. We've attempted to be very thoughtful and organized, again, about how students can prepare for the actual Checkride process. So again, adding, your input, your supervision, your additional assignments when it comes to being able to, use the progress sharing in an effective manner, whether that's homework. You can really make this, this can be the wow factor, I think, in, the overall product and service that we're providing to these various clients. Now, for you Redbird operators, and I know many of you are out there, I do wish to point out that, again, we've made the point several times that you aren't limited to a specific syllabus or TCO when it comes to integrating a home study course. It can be really used with any curriculum, of course. But if you do choose to use the Sporty's option, which is available inside the online training system itself, it's available openly at sportys.com/syllabus. And for any of you Flight Schedule Pro users, it's also available as part of the Flight Schedule Pro Training Hub, digital record keeping system. You can find it there. We do have a full Redbird gift integration. So we have a dedicated table in the course that links up individual lessons in the flight training syllabus with the respective gift modules to complete. So that a student's not necessarily wandering aimlessly, but if they have that resource in the gift modules available, when they're coming up on a specific lesson in the syllabus, they can reference this table and they know exactly what the best options will be in terms of preparing them for that upcoming lesson. As we kind of bring today's presentation to a close, I certainly would be remiss if I didn't encourage or invite you to explore a little bit further the option, if you're not already, to become a dedicated Sporty's partner, which does get you as either flight instructor or flight school operator access to some very attractive wholesale distribution pricing on the Sporty's learning systems. The program is described more in full at sportys.com/dealer, and at that URL it also provides access to a very brief application in order to be approved. And once you are, you get access to a very easy to follow online portal that will provide all the wholesale discount options, and that extends even beyond just the Sporty's learning material, but the entire Sporty's product suite. And I'll also mention a couple of other great resources. Number one, for both you and your students, we do produce an ongoing and actively participate in a great online journal at sportystudentpilotnews.com, which is an active blog of sorts that covers a variety of topics, from specific learning elements to technology, to news that's germane to anyone in the flight training process, either an instructor or a student. And also, if you're due for an upcoming CFI renewal, I would invite you absolutely free to take part in Sporty's eFERC. So for a limited time, you can access all that great training to satisfy your renewal requirements. Navigate to sportys.com/FERC, and that'll provide you all the details and allow you to check out and access that content. So with that, it's certainly been fun joining you. It's a little bit different than, of course, being in person, but this is the next best thing, joining you virtually for Migration 2020. Appreciate you joining in. And for Brett Kobe and the entire Sporty's Pilot Shop team, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your conference and hope to see you very soon.